Okay, it looks like we're live. Welcome to the stream, everyone. We've got a good one today in Lightsworn format, which is a pretty cool format from the 5Ds era. It's the one after Cat. And yeah, we'll be starting very shortly. For some reason, the challenge is not updating with the. Okay, it looks like someone they tried joining and didn't let them in, but they're gonna join again, and then we're gonna get one more player as well. So there'll be a 9-player locals. That'll be very exciting. It's been a while since we've had one of those, so that should be fun. But if you want to play in the locals yourself, you can head over to the YGO from Zero Discord server. Although we are starting very, very soon, so you might not get into this one. But if you want to join in the next one, that should be happening pretty soon as well. But yeah, Lightsworn format is very similar to Edison format. It shares much the same card pool. It's based around the February 2010 YCS Nashville, I believe. And yeah, the card pool is very similar. The ban list is where things differ. A lot of the Lightsworn stuff that were hit in Edison format, for instance, like Charge or Lumina or things like that, is not hit in Lightsworn. So it makes Lightsworn a very good deck. It's not necessarily the best deck in the world, but like it is very, very good. Like it's not tier 0 is what I'm saying, but it is tier 1 in my opinion. So okay, it looks like the last player who I've been told was going to sign up has signed up. So we're going to be starting this thing off soon. There we go. And let's get this party started. Whoop whoop. We're going to shovel up the seeds because, you know, this is a more casual locals environment. So yeah, here we go. 9 players in the locals getting this party started. Good luck to everyone playing. And I'm curious to see what decks will pop up in this event because, you know, Lightsworn is the namesake deck of the format, so I wouldn't be surprised if people gravitate towards that. But the last Lightsworn tournament was actually won by Hero Beat, so Hero Beat could also be a deck that pops up. Diva Hero also did very well in the last tournament too, so it could be something that, you know, we got to keep an eye on here. But it looks like one of the games has started off already. I don't think that those two are matched up. Those two are not matched up. I don't know why they started a game, but we're going to be diving in to Dump Truck versus Clemens here and see how that goes. Looks like Dump Truck going to win the rock, paper, scissors here and be able to go first. It'll be interesting to see how similar this format is to Edison. You know, I think that it can be tricky if you're trying to get formats off the ground if they're too similar to other formats because people are like, well, why don't I just play the other format? Like, you know, for instance, in this one, it's like, why don't I just play Edison instead of Lightsworn format? But I think it can be nice to have formats that are relatively similar to each other because then it's like, if you really like one, like let's say you're a really big Edison head, and you play it a ton and you're like, you know, really into the format, but after a while, you know, you feel like you're in a rut, you know, and it's feels like things are getting too samey. You can jump into Lightsworn format, experience the same sort of era that you love, but with a slightly different flavor, and then that can refresh you and, you know, allow you to then go back in to Edison format with new eyes, you know. So I think that it's like it's nice to have under your belt if you do want that sort of thing. I'm pretty sure Hidden Armory can't even be activated, so I think that it's just yeah, it's just like it's just added to hand at this point, just freehand knowledge, but kind of like how you can't activate Pot of Duality if Ryo's up either. So, and that can come up. Like, for instance, let's say you've got like a Pot of Duality, or in this format, a Hidden Armory set in the back row, and your opponent has Ryo, and you draw into Gores, and you're like, well, I'd really like to activate this set that I have, and then have an empty field for Gores to come down. You can't actually activate it at all. So, there goes Neos Alias. So it seems like there's a Hero Beat deck with Ryo, and there's Alias. Might be an Honest in hand as well. Playing around the TT there, I'm pretty sure, by not committing the Alias there. Also playing around Mirror Force as well. But yeah, now the Alias can attack in to the set, and that's going to hit a Raikou, which is going to pop that Alias there. Interesting that Clemens didn't want to go for the Hidden Armory this turn, but it seems like they might have drawn into the Raikou here, which is why they did that. But those are some great mills. Trading, obviously, not the best mill, but milling Amaryllis and Gardna is pretty good. Lone Fire coming down here as well. Are they going to cycle through all the Lone Fires, or are they just going to leave it at 1 or 2. It seems like Oppression's going to get flipped, and that's going to get Solemned there, which I think is a good Solemn, because Oppression kind of hoses this sort of deck. And a Titanial's going to come down, and that's going to get Bottomless Trap Hold. There's a bit of a debate about whether you go through all the Lone Fires or not in a deck like this. I personally like to go through a lot of them if I've got an Amaryllis in Grave, because then it's like, okay, I've got all these plants in Grave, I can go for Amaryllis now and have that set up. So that's my take on it, but you could argue that like having the Amaryllis or having the Lone Fire allows you to just, have a good draw off the top. But I think if you have Hidden Armory in hand, you want to go for cycling through all the Lone Fires you've got in the deck, because, you want to use Hidden Armory at some point, and if you use Hidden Armory, then you don't have a normal summoner set. So then it's like not really worth it to just summon out you're basically shutting off one part of your hand. If you go for Lone Fire, then you shut off the Hidden Armory. If you activate Hidden Armory, then you shut off the Lone Fire. So it's like not really a good draw in this scenario. So I personally like cycling through all Lone Fires, but that's just me. I mean, other people can have different opinions here. They're going to go for a Debris here, trying to bring back that Lone Fire, and maybe go for Black Rose here. That's the most likely option. Downbreak thinking about that, so they might have something to do there. We know about an Honest in hand. We don't know about anything else, though. But yeah, they're going to go for Lone Fire here. And that will indeed go through. Okay, it seems like Black Rose might be made here. But on res, it looks like they are going to probably TT this. Or, Hero Blast. That works too. So yeah, Hero Blast will get back Alias, pop the Lone Fire, which makes sense. Yeah, because its effect is negated by the Debris Dragon. So, but yeah, it's pretty good use of the Hero Blast there, taking in for 1,000. And then main 2, what's going to happen? Looks like they're just going to pass. Okay, so I think this is lethal. Or no, not lethal, because it's 2,900. If there's a second Honest in hand, then that is lethal. But if not, then this will just be 900 coming in. But yeah, it looks like Gardena's going to get banished to protect the Debris Dragon. They might have, maybe they've got, Lone Fires in hand already. Maybe they just drew a bunch of them. I don't think it's the most likely thing in the world, but it is a possibility. They're going to go for Hidden Armory here, milling off the top in MST. Not the best mill, but it is something. Then probably going for Mark of the Rose, I would assume. But see, again, like if you go for Mark of the Rose here, then it's like you've lost a lot of fodder for your plans. But it looks like they're going to go for DDR instead. Mind Crush is going to come down, call DDR, rip that out of the hand, and that is going to be a bit sad for Clemens here. Now, they can switch the Debris to defense, so that will at least do that. But Hidden Armory going to come down again. This can add from deck or grave. Looks like they're going to add it from the graveyard here, going for that DDR. Mind Crush again, because this thing is semi-limited in Lightsworn format, and that's going to hit that DDR out of the hand again. So, yeah, that is pretty brutal for Clemens here. Do they have the third Hidden Armory? I doubt it, but they could. I also don't know how many DDRs they're playing. But, yeah, they might switch the Debris to defense and just pass it back at that. And it looks like that is indeed what they're going to do. Makes it a lot harder for Dump Truck to kill here, although they can use an Honest to get over that Debris. It looks like they're not going to, because Hero Beat is more of a stun locky deck, so like you can sort of bide your time and get to what you want there. Looks like they're going to go for trade-in, draw 2 off that by pitching Amaryllis. You want those Amaryllises in grave, so that's pretty good there. And it looks like Clemens going to set 1 pass. Not going for banishing an Amaryllis for an Amaryllis, or banishing that Lone Fire Blossom and bring out one of them. I think that makes sense. Didn't really get you much besides 800 damage in, but you could argue the 800 damage in is worth getting. Looks like a Lila's going to come down here, and Dump Truck thinking about that. They're going to TT the board, which means that they might have more aggressive pressure there later. And it looks like Clemens going to pass back. Not looking good for Clemens here. Yeah, it looks like Ryo going to come down, and that's going to get bottomless if that does go through. And it looks like it will go through. Dump Truck setting 1, setting another, and passing back to Clemens. So that is 3 back row there. There could be a heavy or a true nade or something. Heavy does come down, so that's going to get met with a solemn. Makes sense. But now Dump Truck's life points are a bit more equal to Clemens's, and now that Amaryllis can get a lot more value here, because whenever it's destroyed, 800 damage in. Dump Truck is now down to 4 hits of that. So it does make Amaryllis a potential win con, and they are going to go to end phase and try and use that Amaryllis, banishing the Lone Fire, bring back that Amaryllis. And imagine if they had gone through multiple Lone Fire in their deck, they would have enough fodder to actually, go for another Amaryllis, which would have been a 2-turn clock, basically. So, again, I think in general, if you've got the Amaryllis set up, you want to go through the multiple Lone Fires, but that's just me. I think there is an argument to be made for having more Lone Fires in deck. It's just, I personally wouldn't make it here. But again, whenever I, sort of critique people playing the games, I'm doing it from an outsider perspective, from a commentator perspective. I don't see their hands. I don't know their deck. I'm just saying this from what I assume about their deck and what I assume about their hand. And so, definitely could have been the right play for Clemens. And also, I'm not infallible. I can get things wrong, and maybe it is correct to actually leave more Lone Fires in deck in this sort of situation. But that's just me. It looks like a Hero Blast is going to come down, and that's going to pop the Lila there, which makes sense. You don't want that sticking around, and you don't want to pop in one of the back row. So it's traded for a back row either way, but also Dump Truck was able to get an Alias to hand there, which is pretty good. Is Clemens going to go for the Amaryllis in the end phase? I personally would have just done it. I would have just gone Amaryllis for Amaryllis. But that's just me. I feel like they're in a very risky spot. It looks like they're going to pop Dandy. Okay, so that makes some sense why you don't go for Amaryllis for Amaryllis. But if they can clear those 2 tokens and get in, could be a bit rough for Clemens here. But also, a way I figure it is, like, are you going to get those 2 Amaryllises off is the question. Like, I don't necessarily know if you will. So that's a bit tricky. But yeah, Dandy's effect is going to activate here. There is an oppression there. Another reason to potentially get that Amaryllis off early. But yeah, emergency call. That can at least get a hero to hand, but there's no more normal summons this turn for Dump Truck. Honest is going to flip up, attack in for 1100. But now Dump Truck's in a really, really bad spot. Like a very, very bad spot. Oh, now they're in a worse spot for Gores. Oh, no. That's rough. It does dodge around the Royal Oppression there. And that's going to be unfortunate for Dump Truck because the Amaryllis can use their effect. It's not once per turn. So it's just during your end phase. So that means that Dump Truck's taking 800 from that either way. So I think Clemens can just sort of wait it out. I don't think they need to attack, into the honest. They're going to do it anyways. I don't think it matters that much, but I would not have done this. I think this is just a bit too risky for my blood. But looks like Honest is going to come down. That's going to be 1100 there. I really think that was unnecessary. I don't think that was worth it. Because you've got the win con with your Amaryllises, where you can just go for bring back Amaryllis. Oppression negates it, but like it's not once per turn. So like you keep doing it. You've got 2 plants in grave, and that does it, right? So I think that, yeah, I don't know. I think Clemens misplayed that. I mean, they might still win this though. But I feel like they misplayed because now Oppression is shut off for them. So it's like Dump Truck can do that if they want to. But it's just kind of rough. I feel like having just the Gores in defense would have been fine enough. But it looks like the Amaryllis will stick. So that is another thing for Dump Truck to get through. And then if it manages to stick around the next turn as well, come back, then that will be kind of rough for them. Heavy Storm is going to blow up the Oppression anyways, so it wouldn't really matter there. And a Stratos going to come down, get a search in. Fortunately for Clemens, this is not the end yet. But it depends on what that other back row is going to be here that I assume Dump Truck has. If they don't have a back row, then, they just lose. Because Amaryllis pops. That's going to deal 800. Looks like there is a back row there. And now Clemens wants to set up one more plant in grave, probably. But they're in a bit of a tough spot. And, again, if they had the Gores in defense here, like, it would have been a much more tenuous spot for Dump Truck. Now, Dump Truck could have still gotten over the Gores with the Honest, but it would have been rough. Amaryllis coming back, though, so unless Dump Truck has, like, Minecon, I'm pretty sure that's, like, basically the only way to out this thing. Compulse would also do it, but yeah, it's going to go first game to Clemens there. So very, very intense stuff. Yeah, just not enough life points left. That's sort of one of the strengths of Amaryllis, is that if it gets into a grind game like that, it can sort of outgrind the opponent's life points, which is not something you see all too often there. But very cool stuff. Let's dive in to Wagmuffin and Little Mist here, see how they're doing. And it looks like Little Mist won the first game. So it seems like they might be up against a Lightsworn deck here, because Charge comes down, Wolf gets milled. That's generally only played in a Lightsworn deck itself. So seems like this is a Lightsworn build. Now, we'll have to see if there's anything special about this build, like if it's Twilight Sworn or something like that. But at least for now, it's Lightsworn stuff. So the Wolf is going to be able to come back here unless that gets DD crowed, and it looks like that will indeed go through. And a Lila coming down to get those mills going. setting 1, and passing. So pretty good turn for Wagamuffin. Good start. And it seems like this is Lightsworn with the Chaos Orc there. Transmigration Prophecy also getting played. Very interesting. I feel like generally, I mean, we don't know what deck Little Miss is on, but I feel like in a Lightsworn build, you want to go with like DD Crow instead. Because that's at least a dark to banish off the Sork if you need it. But that's just me. Looks like Allure is going to come down here, draw 2, banish 1, or discard the whole hand. That's also an option if they don't have any darks. But let's see if they will have a dark. They're thinking here. So it looks like they're going to banish the Caius there. So Caius, very good card. Seems like they might be on... Oh, it seems like they're on Lightsworn as well. Okay. So... Oh, not Lightsworn. Vayu Turbo. Okay, that makes some sense. Yeah, so since we're so close to Edison, a lot of the decks in Edison format do have their own incarnations in Lightsworn format. And Vayu is definitely one of them. So it's going to mill an Emblem of Honor and a Gale. Not necessarily wanting to mill the Gale because, you know, in this format, Gale is limited, unlike in Cat format where it's unlimited and things get crazy. Not to say that Vayu can't go crazy, because it definitely can. But, yeah, it's going to be pretty good mill overall. It's a good thing and a bad thing, right? Because Vayu got milled, but also the Gale got milled, so that's kind of rough. But Jane is going to get searched out. Now the question is Jane going to attack into that Lila, or are they just going to summon out Jane, sit on it? Because Honest is an ever-present threat that you have to worry about. Braincon, though, is going to be pretty good, targeting that Lila. And then the fun thing here, actually, with Braincon is that you get to choose whether to use Lila's mill effect before or after you send it back to the opponent. So Little Miss can actually use the mill effect of Lila in their end phase and then give it back. So that's kind of a neat sort of thing that you can do with this sort of thing. And yeah, the Jane can crash here if they so wish. I'm not sure if they want to do that or not, but it might not be a bad option. Looks like they're going to go for Armonite instead. Send probably Sirocco, and then get a Armed Wing into rotation, probably, I would assume. Okay, they're going to send Plague instead. That makes more sense, actually, because this manages to bring out Bryo, and then you can bounce back that Wolf, sort of leave it dead in hand. Although, maybe not quite dead, because Solar Recharge is a thing that you can use to get it out of hand. But Lumina also can be used to pitch for it, so that is something that they can easily get back next turn. But at least dodges around the Honest. So you can also go for Goyo here if you want. It just risks an Honest play, but depends on whether you're willing to risk that or not. I think that, you know, depending on what else is in the hand, you might be willing to risk it. Looks like Goyo is going to be the play, trying to, you know, hit into this thing. Dodge an Honest. It looks like it will dodge the Honest. So that's going to attack in, take control of the Wolf. So that means one less Lightsworn in Grave for like a JD play if that would happen. And now Armonite coming down as well, attacking him for 14. Not playing around Gores because, frankly, I don't think you need to in this sort of game state. The Goyo can beat over the Gores and the token, and you've already tested to see if they have Honest. So, now Wagamuffin does have some potential options. They can go for a Lumina play for the Lila, bring that back, pop the back row, attack over the Wolf, and that is something. But you then risk your opponent getting the Lumina with the Goyo and then being able to bring things back of their own, because we do know that they're playing a Lightsworn package. So it becomes a little bit tricky here about what you want to do. We don't know the other cards in their hand. So they might have some other things they want to go for here. But definitely is a bit tricky for them. Okay, looks like Lumina is going to indeed come down. It's going to be fine by Little Miss. They're going to use Lumina's effect, pitching a Lila to bring back a Lila. It looks like that will all go through. Or maybe not. I don't know. We'll have to see if Little Miss lets it, but I do think it will probably. But this is definitely a tricky play because the Go can, you know, take the Lumina, and that could be awkward, but it probably is more likely to take the Lila here, so it's not necessarily the worst thing in the world. But yeah, Lila on the back row could be something. Or they're just going to go to battle, say, you know, that's not a battle trap that I'm afraid of. I'm just going to attack in the Armonite with the Lila, that will go through, and then attack in to the Wolf with the Lumina, and that will also go through. So, pretty bold play, but I think it did work out for Wagamuffin here, because now main 2, you can pop the set with the Lila. It looks like they are indeed going to do that. Getting that thing gone. And it looks like it's a TT, so yeah, pretty good thing to hit. You Yeah, if I was Little Miss, I'm not sure I would have committed the TT into this board. It is a bluff, but also we do know that Lumina can just bring back a Lila, and even if they didn't have that other Lila in hand. So, like, it gives them a lot of value by popping the TT, which you obviously want for other things. But, you know, Wagamuffin could potentially have had, like, a blow-up pay, like, you know, Judgment Dragon or something like that. Maybe they've got ways to set that up. So, I definitely see the reason besides saying the TT, but, like, it did work out a bit poorly for Little Mist here. But they're going to mill 6 cards from the top of their deck. And let's see if it's anything good. Okay, that is 4 names engraved, so that is pretty good in that sense. But nothing like a Necro Gardener or a Plague or something like that you necessarily want engraved. But the Lumina being there is pretty decent. And Card Trooper coming down. Now the question is, how many are they going to mill for Card Trooper? They are going to mill all 3. I think there is a world in which you mill only 2. And the reason for that is, if you attack an Illumina, they've got Honest. You have the read that they probably only have 1 Honest, because they didn't Honest, you know, when the Goyo attacked in. And the Card Trooper has 1400 attack at that point. So you attack over Lumina, it gains up to 2400 attack if they Honest it. And then the Goyo can beat over the Lumina. So there is a reason to potentially, you know, play around Honest in that way. Now you could argue that you just attack in Illumina here, and then if they have Honest, you just attack over the Lila, use Lila to then, well, you can't use it to pop the back row this turn, but you can just have it there to then be more mills and stuff like that. But I feel like you just want to get rid of the Lumina right away, because there are a lot of Lightsworns engraved, so a lot of different options for Wagamuffin to go into. And there indeed is the Honest, so that is going to beat over the Trooper. That does get Little Miss to draw here. And now the Goyo can attack over the Lila. Take that, get the mills at the end of the turn if they so wish. And I feel like that probably is worth it. But yeah, if they were able to attack over the Lumina here, that would be pretty good, potentially. And yeah, I don't know. I think it might have been worth it to go for that play instead, but I don't think this is terrible. It just does leave them with a very powerful card here. So, question is, are they going to go for something else, like an Armor Master off the Elfin and the Lila? Looks like they're just going to go to end phase, mill 3, which I think is probably, you know, one of the only options they've got. They've got multiple Vayus and Blackwings engraved, though, to make some plays coming down the line. It just is a matter of if they survive that long. If there's a Beckoning Light engraved, that will be very, very rough, because it allows them to get back JD and potentially, I mean, what would be the best other thing to get back? Maybe just Lila? Or maybe, no, you can't get back Lumina right now. But, yeah, probably just JD and Honest maybe, or Raikou. JD Raikou seems pretty good if you got Beckoning, but that's if they've got Beckoning, right? They might not have Beckoning, and that Goyo is just looming large here and being a menace. Actually, I guess you can get back JD and just like Garroth or something. Summon out JD, summon out Garroth, beat over Goyo with the JD, beat over Lila with the Illumina, and then just attack him with Garroth, get potential draws later. So I guess that's an option. But it looks like Wagamam's going to Pot of Avarice here. Trying to see what they draw into. Probably going to shuffle back some Honest, some JD. So Honest, Chaos Orc, JD. I think those are 3 clear ones. And now the question is, which other ones do you shuffle back? Maybe Raikou, because it's not as useful in Grave. And then maybe Lila, because you can get that name back in Grave. So yeah, I feel like for me, I would do JD, Sork, Honest, Raikou, Lila. That would be my pick of 5. But I think there are other combinations that you can do depending on the last card in hand and also the set. But that would be what I'd pick. So, looks like they're going to go Sork, Lila, Honest, JD, and Arcus. Okay, that also is fine between Arcus and Raikou. I don't think there's too much difference there. Yeah, so that also works fine. Yep. There it all goes back, and I'm getting 2 more draws in here. And then they could potentially bring back, like, I mean, Garroth is the only thing, or I guess Wolf or Garroth probably is a decent pick to bring back. They're going to draw 2. And now if they've got JD, they can attack in with Lumina, bring out JD, either blow up the board, just be like, I got JD now. So things are going good for me. Yeah, it's definitely a bit of a tricky scenario. Because next turn, Little Mist can pop off pretty hard with their Blackwings. But it looks like they're going to go for Garroth here. So bring back the Garroth, attacking over the Lila, most likely. Probably saving Honest for next turn, I would assume, if they've got Honest. So they're probably just going to attack Garroth into the Lila. They're going to bring out another Lila as well to get even more mills. Maybe they are going for a big push. I don't know. But yeah, they're going to attack in Garroth into Lila. That's going to get the Lila back in Grave. And then are they going to attack into Goyo? Nope, they're just going to set one, get some mills off here, hope for stuff that are good. Lila milling first, they'll mill 3. Let's see the 3 go into Grave. JD. Oh, and there's a Wolf. Okay, Wolf is something. But yeah, Garroth is going to trigger. Wolf is going to trigger. So, yeah, there goes a Jane and a Soul Recharge. So they will get a draw off the Garroth there. Wolf coming back in attack mode there. And now the Lumina will mill. So it's going to be 1, 2, 3 milled. No Lightsworn there. But will the Garroth mill Lightsworn? They're going to mill a Dad and a Sork. So not necessarily what you want to see there. Also, Gores is now in Grave. So Little Miss doesn't need to worry about that. And that's going to be it. So here's a question. If you're Little Miss, do you just switch everything to defense and pass? Like, just, you know, make like maybe one more Blackwing. And then just switch the go to, or you can't switch to defense because they can bring back Jane or just attack her with Wolf, but leave it in attack and just say, you know, good luck. Get over this and like it a Blackwing guy. Because this is going to be 3, 6, and then 2 for each of those. That's going to be 10 mills, and they're drawing 1 card next turn anyways. So you potentially cause Wagamuff to mill out if they don't have a way to actually win next turn, which they very well might not. If they go JD, wipe the board, then they are taking 1,000. Well, the 1,000 damage doesn't matter much, but they're losing all their Lightsworns, which is not going to be that good. We do know that they don't have any Honest in Grave now, so they most likely have some Honests coming around. But, you know, like, they're going to have max 2 Honests, right? So if you just have 3 monsters that the opponent can't get over, then that is good enough. Or potentially they don't have enough to kill you, even if you just have 2 monsters. So I think Little Miss is in a very good spot here. I think they're going to go for the Blackwing Synchro here. Maybe try and poke in over something. Bait out an Honest now, if they've got it. Yeah, looks like Armmaster going to... Well, no, you can't go for Armmaster there. You got to go for Armed Wing. No, that's an Arm Wing. Or it should be an Arm Wing. Let me just... I don't think it matters that much, but... Yeah. Unless there's something buffing up the level of everything in Grave. And also it should be Armmaster for the second, right? Because that's 6 and then that's 7, so... Shouldn't be 7 and 8, yeah. So it looks like they've realized, so that should be 6, and then yeah. Yeah, so Silverwing goes back. So all's well that ends well. Okay, it looks like Helio lost to Clive there, and Dump Truck lost to Clemens. So seems like plants are moving on, and then whatever Clive is playing is moving on as well, which we'll dive into after a bit. Dad coming down. Okay, that is pretty good. That is pretty good there. Pop in the back row most likely, because that is the, you know, danger for you. But yeah, pop in that one. That's gonna be Threatening Roar. Okay, but it can pop another one and then pop the Lumina, and that's probably gonna be good. Although actually, again, you know, you might not want to pop the Lumina because this is potentially lethal through deck out. So maybe you don't pop Lumina. Beckoning Light coming down. Okay, that can get a JD, which is going to be annoying, to say the least. But, yeah, so now things are in a bit of a tricky spot because now Wyman has a way to avoid deck out here. So that's going to be unfortunate for Little Miss, especially when they committed so much here. I feel like you do pop one of the Lightsworns just in case, or maybe you force Wagamuff and 2 blow up the board. I don't know. Yeah, maybe you just pop the Wolf. How many Lightsworns are in Grave? 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, so 4 already names in Grave. So doesn't really matter which one you pop if you are going to pop. So yeah, looks like Jane is going to come down as well, just get the milling going. So trying to play around like getting Necrogarden and things like that, which I think makes sense. And that's going to be just 2 because it only mills 2. And yeah, JD can come down, blow up the board, which I think honestly is best for Wagamuffin here. Because you can't leave the dad around. Honestly, you can't leave your own Lightsworns around either, because that will be milling you out. So it just comes down to coming in with JD and blowing up the board and then attacking in for 3k, maybe 6k, depending on if they drew another JD. Actually, JD might be limited at this time. But either way, Wagamuffin is sort of in the driver's seat now. And all those values are out of grave. So that's 2, so there could be more coming. But Burial is in grave as well. So if they don't have another Burial, then not going to be the best for them. But yeah, definitely a thinker for Wagamuffin. Checking their extra decks, they might have Plague or something like that in hand. Unfortunately, I don't think Plague does much for them. Even if they make Mistworm, that doesn't bounce back enough. It just bounces back. Actually, it bounces back 3. You make it with Lumina and Lila, probably. And then you can... Yeah, so that actually might be it here. I don't know. Yeah, I think Mistworm bounce back a bunch would do it potentially. Yeah, there's Mistworm. So target up to 3 cards your opponent controls, return them to hand. You might even bounce back the Jane, honestly. But it looks like they're going to bounce back all the Synchros. Get those out of the picture. JD comes down. And now they don't really need to worry about deck out this turn. And yeah, they can attack over the dad with the JD. That will go through. Attack over the Jane with the Mistworm. That will likely go through unless there's an Honest, which there might be, but probably not in value. And that will indeed go through. And now 1850 plus 2100. And that is a lot of damage coming down. So Wagamuffin did find a better way out of the scenario than I was thinking. But not that if they had just gone for JD, blow up the board, that would have been bad. They still would have been on a 2-turn clock. But here, you get to retain a lot more monsters. So a lot harder for Little Miss to actually break through and win here. Not the best mills, but not the worst mills either. Yeah, Little Miss is sort of in a tough spot now. Well, what do they do here? And I don't know. I'm not sure necessarily the best way to get out of this situation. It's a tricky one, to be sure. Kind of funny that Mistworm is the card doing in Little Miss here. But again, JD would have been a fine way to deal with that as well. Burial would be kind of cracked here, not gonna lie. Would it be enough? I don't know if it would be enough, but it would be pretty good getting Plague. Maybe you go Plague, Sirocco, Vayu if you've got Burial, and then you can go into an 8 Synchro, potentially into, depending on how many Warriors are in grave. You do have enough Warriors for Colossal Fighter, so you just go Colossal Fighter into JD, and then you're sort of surviving, at least. And potentially winning over the course of a couple turns if they can out the Colossal. But, yep, no, that's going to be the end of the game, so no Burial, no nothing. Yeah, rough stuff there for Little Miss, but now it's going to be 1-1 into game 3 there. So let's dive into another game. Let's look at Jim Bob versus Clemens here and see how that one's going. And the winner of this will then face off against Clive. Actually, we should dive into Soul versus Hoy because that is 2 new decks, whereas Jim Bob and Clemens is 1 new deck. So Hoy and Soul are currently playing. Seems like Hoy won game 1, but Soul's opening with Dust Shoot, my favorite card, game 2. So that'll be pretty good here for them. Getting a peek at the hand. Do they like what they see or do they not? That is the question. And it's a question that we may get answered for us soon. They're going to send back a Goblin. So the question is, what type of Goblin is that? It's Goblin Zombie. So seems like Hoy is on zombies, which is a very, very cool deck. It's been experimented with in Edison repeatedly. Unfortunately, I think current consensus is that it doesn't have the legs to really do much in Edison right now. But it's still a cool deck to experiment with. And in Lightsworn format, where there are more ways to mill, could be a better deck. So definitely something that I will probably also be doing a video on. I'll probably be doing a lot of videos for Lightsworn format. Hopefully I'll be able to get them out at a faster rate than I have in recent times. But I do think this format deserves a fair amount of attention, especially since for Edison format, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be collabing with Edison content creators like I did with GOAT content creators. And so it'll be less, exploring the format as deeply and more just, seeing what people want to show me with their decks and stuff. So Charge is going to come down here, milling 3 and searching out a Lightsworn. So seems like Soul's also on a sort of Lightsworn build, but there is a Breed Dragon there, which is kind of interesting. It can be used with Raikou pretty well. So now Breed go into Raikou, go into Iron Chain. That's something you can do. Pretty sure Bryonac is a Sea Serpent, so you can't go into that. But yeah, still pretty good here. Hoy checking their extra deck, seeing what they got. Seeing if they got anything good. What are the goods that Hoy is going to get here? A lot of potential options. They could also have a Raikou here, but if it is Raikou, then Soul knew about it and played into it. So I doubt it's Raikou. Although maybe, Soul just set like a Sangan or something, or a Dandy, and is fine getting that popped. But still, I mean, you give Hoy a potential mill, which is not ideal. But, and we'll see what they do. Probably going to be a Synchro play this turn. They are thinking. They are thonking. The mind games have commenced. What's going to happen here? That's the question. In the meantime, Chad, have you read any good books? Any good books lately? I read a book this week. I read the new Sanderson book, Isles of the Emberdark. That was pretty good. I like that. But I'm a big Sanderson fan, so yeah, I was sort of primed to like it, especially because I liked Six of Dusk, which was the novella that was sort of incorporated into this book. So but Diva's going to come down, so it seems like a Diva zombie. And that's going to pull out another Sea Serpent from the deck, bring out another Diva. So now you can flip up Mizuki, go into a 6, and then go into an 8 if you so wish. Or just leave that Diva around for later. But yeah, there goes a Gaia Knight, the Force of Earth. So it seems like they didn't have any good zombies to pitch. Otherwise, they could have gone Bryo, pitch, bounce, and then do stuff like that. But it seems like Stardust is going to attack in the set, just in case the Raikou. It is indeed the Raikou. And Soul probably just mill here. Yep, mill only. Because if you try and pop, then that'll get negated. So mill only here, milling 3 cards, milling a quick draw, a shell, and a lone fire. So it seems like this is a sort of quick draw dandy deck, but incorporating a Lightsworn package, which is kind of interesting. But yeah, they'll be able to get some advantage out of that shell next turn. So that could be pretty good for them. But Stardust is kind of annoying to deal with. So we'll see if Soul has a way to deal with it. And it looks like Hoy is just going to pass back. So yeah, pretty good graveyard for Hoy, though. If they get a zombie in there, they can go for Mizuki play and do stuff with that. Shell's going to trigger. Searching out another shell. Getting that to hand. There goes the shell. Gotta love shell for shell. And it seems like Wagamuffin won against Little Miss. So very, very intense games there from what we saw. But it seems like the third game went a bit quicker. So, yeah, Wagamuffin will be facing the winner of this game, and the winner of that game will face whoever wins against Clive, and the winner of Jim Bob and Clemens. I'm going to hop into the Jim Bob and Clemens match because I think that will wrap up before the Hoy and Soul match. So let's see how it's going. Seems like it's going 1-1. Seems like Jim Bob is on the sort of, hero beat style deck that Dump Truck was on, or maybe they're on more of a stun focused deck, with Doom Cals and stuff, stun beat. But yeah, I mean, this is kind of rough for Jim Bob because the Doom Cal is so easy to out. Honestly, I feel like I would have gone Plague stack and then summoned out Lone Fire after, because the Plague would negate the or the Doomcal would negate the Plague. Plague remains in grave, and then you go for a Titanial play. You got a big thing. So I think that might have been a misplay on Clemens' part. Maybe it wasn't, because maybe they knew, or maybe no, there wasn't a Gordon hand. So yeah, I think that was a misplay on Clemens' part, because it's basically a free out to Doomcal, right? So yeah, I think that was a big whoopsie. But again, I'm commentating. I'm not playing in the game, so it definitely can. I can definitely be wrong about this, and also it's a lot harder to see in the moment. There's no pressure on me to call out these plays as there is on the players. So yeah, it's just quite unfortunate that yeah, they had to use the Lone Fire instead of the Plague. So, but they got another set card there. It's gonna be a Raikou popping one of the Kaikus, so that's something. Milling 3, not milling potentially the best, because Amaryllis doesn't do anything against Kaiku. And yeah, another setback there. So many things that Jim Bob could be using here to potentially protect the Kaiku, stop what Clemens wants to do, and this is not looking good for them. They're going to set another, hope that it's enough, but it might not be. Setting the back row as well, and passing. They can't do it. They can't do it because of the Kaiku. So, yeah, man, this is such a shame. I do hate seeing when things like this happen. Doomcal is going to be a bit brutal there, but a TT will blow up the board if it's allowed. Solemn will come down though, and yeah, this is going to be very, very rough, because Doomcal just attacks in the set. Kaiku, Kaiku can attack in because, oh well, yeah. Now it's actually Kaiku can't banish though, so that's something. Yeah, no effect, because if you activate the effect, the Doomcal negates it. So that is a saving grace there. You still have the Necro for later if you manage to clear the Kaiku, but yeah, I think this was just a major misplay on Clemens' part. I think they would have been in a fine spot with the Titanial. I mean, we don't know what Jim Bob's last set is, but like, yeah, I think that was a little bit of a throw. It does happen. You can't use Necro here because it banishes for cost. So I don't think you can even activate this. I don't think you can activate it because it banishes for cost. So, the Kaiku prevents it. And yeah, that's just rough. I mean, yeah, I think that Clemens could have won that one, but they just didn't see the line. Well, that's rough. Anyways, back to Hoy versus Soul. I think that's actually we'll have Clive versus Jim Bob there as well. Soul in a very good spot here with the Drill Warrior set up, being able to get continuous advantage from the grave there with a Stardust as well. So seems like a lot happened here since we last saw this. Yeah, it's going to be pretty good. Now the question is, what is Hoy going to do here to clap back into this? Having Mizuki in grave is pretty good if you set up other zombies, but you need those other zombies to set up. And from the way things are looking, it seems like they might not have many. Oh, did Stardust negate something? It looked like Stardust negated something. I thought they destroyed it through bad. Yeah, I guess it would have negated something there. Yeah, so that does come back. Technically, it's an optional effect, so it doesn't have to come back. So Soul was very generous there, giving that to them. But Soul is in a better spot, so it makes sense why they would do that. Now the question is, what do you do if you're Hoy? Do you just attack into the token and leave it at that? Or do you just crash into the Stardust and prevent that from negating a destruction? I mean, it depends on what the back row is. And probably depends on what your other back row cards you might have in hand are, or your other monsters. The ideal here would be if you have some way to get into a Bryanak and you can pitch a zombie to then get that online from Mizuki, then that would be pretty good. But that is seeming less and less likely that Hoy has that. So they are thinking here. They're giving it a bit of a think. You can go for Book of Life. That's going to be pretty good. Turning Mizuki, and then probably the most high value card in Soul's Graveyard, which is going to be the Dandy here, which I think makes a lot of sense. If you get that back, then it can just continuously generate tokens. If they go for Debris, then they get to bring back Dandy, go into a 7, which is not the best. Or even into an 8, because you can go 3-1 with one of the tokens and go into another dragon there. So I think it makes sense just to remove that problem card from the grave and leave Soul with a bit worse options overall. So the question is, is what's Hoi going to do now. They're going to go for an Ill Blood. Very neat. So Ill Blood can be brought back off Mizuki, so that is something. They're going to crash the Stardust into the Stardust and then crash the Ill Blood into a token. And the Ill Blood will eat it up. And then they're going to pass back to Soul. So now Hoi's in a pretty good spot because if they attack over Ill Blood, then Mizuki can bring back the Ill Blood. Ill Blood can normal summon itself and get some zombies out. But, you know, Soul still has the add back off the Drill Warrior, which is obviously not ideal for Hoi, even though they did get rid of the Dandelion, which is probably the most problematic card here in that grave. Lone Fire for Titanium will be pretty bad if Soul is playing that package. Getting back a Caius would be pretty bad because actually Caius is probably the, you know, nightmare scenario for Hoi if they don't have a way to stop it, because you can tribute that token because, you know, a turn after it was spell summoned. So they can indeed tribute it and then banish the Ill Blood, shut off the Mizuki, and then get in for a ton of damage and actually potentially lethal depending on what the back row is. But it looks like they're going to go for Debris instead, going for probably another Stardust. But they're going to go for Lone Fire there, bring that back to level 3. And then they can go for an 8. So, or a 7, I guess. But I feel like you go for 8 here. And they are indeed going to go for the 8. They're going to go for another Stardust probably. Yep, there's the Stardust. So now they can attack over the Ill Blood. And then the Drill Warrior can attack directly. So, seems like Hoi does not have a TT here. Because otherwise you'd probably use that on the Debris summon or the Lone Fire summon, honestly. So yeah, it's pretty rough. They weren't able to stop that. And now the Stardust sort of has hit the board again and can insulate Soul from a lot of different possibilities. Now again, if you do have more zombies, you can go for Mizuki into Ill Blood, into other stuff. But it's not looking the best here, honestly. I think honestly something that Soul maybe should have done is gone Drill Warrior, add back Caius, and then banish Drill Warrior, summon out Caius into the Ill Blood, and then attack with Caius directly. That I think maybe would have been a decent option, although then you don't end on Stardust. But I feel like just shutting off as many of Hoi's plays as possible might have been good. But I guess Stardust shuts off a different direction of plays, so it makes sense. Drill Warrior coming down, adding back. I don't know what you add back here. Maybe just Debris again, because you can go into a 7 just to be a lot of damage. So that's something at least. But like you're basically in a winning position from here. So yeah, no matter what you add, you're probably doing fine. Cause this is like just enough on board to be lethal. So yeah, I mean it's just kind of over at this point for Hoi. I don't know, maybe just Lone Fire if you got another Titanium in deck. That's not a bad option. Yeah, looks like they're gonna go Debris though. So I mean you can go into like Iron Chain here or Black Rose just to have it. Yep, there's gonna the Debris. Debris is gonna add back Lone Fire here. And I mean, this is lethal on board. I think honestly you might just attack him with all this, but it looks like they are gonna go for the Black Rose. And that should be good enough. Oh, AFD also works, sure. Oh, that's gonna get bottomless, which, you know, again is kind of like why I was like, well, you can just go for leaving it that and attacking in, but it shouldn't matter here. You don't negate this, or you do negate it, I guess. Potentially playing the Mirror Force. But yeah, again, like leaving the monsters would have probably been best. You play around bottomless. If they've got Mirror Force in the back row, then you start to negate it, and then you win the game that turn anyways. But yeah, I mean, like, yeah, I mean, it's just, I don't know. It's fine. Soul's still winning. But now they have to sort of play weirdly. And I don't know why they're having the Drill Warrior. I feel like if you're using Drill Warrior here, yeah, you play around Mirror Force, right? Like, I feel like this was definitely just, oh, that hurt to watch as well, because it's just like, there's not really a reason to go for what Soul did. Like, but they just sort of overcommitted for, I don't know, style points maybe, or maybe they thought it would lead to a better outcome, but I feel like it was just you know, it's better not to. Like, sometimes less is more, you know? But yeah, Hoy might have to go for a desperate Mizuki play here. Looks like they're just going to pass, though. I don't know. I maybe would have brought back something in defense just in case. Because Shell's probably in hand, right? Well, that's only 100 attack, so I guess you don't have to worry about that. But there could be an average. There could be many things. Yeah, Fossil Dyna, that works too. So, yeah, this will be the end of the game here. And, yeah, I feel like maybe just the defensive ill blood could have been something. But, yeah, I don't know. I don't think Hoy was going to win that one with a Stardust on field and nothing really in the tank, especially with Fossil Dyna coming down. But, you know, it's always good to, you know, make it as likely as possible that you win. But, yeah. Anyways, we're back with Zerworldo, Dark Arm God, and Jim Bob here. It seems like Zerworldo is playing a Winged Rhino style deck, which is kind of neat. You know, Zux did popularized it in Edison format, and it has seen some smattering of success in other formats as well. But we'll have to see if it can do something in Lightsworn format, especially against this style of deck that Jim Bob has. But the Breaker is going to eat a Dimpriz and then attack into that set. Attacking into a Snowman Eater, which will pop the Breaker. And deal Dark Arm God 300 damage. Yep, there it is. So I'll drop him down to 3,000. Jim Bob in a very good spot here. Although Zerworldo does have 3 back row. So that is something. It seems like Jim Bob just set into passing, so they might not have aggressive pressure here. And Zerworldo setting another. And setting another. And passing back. Okay, Jim Bob just setting another, passing back. Yatagarasu coming down, so that will get Zerworldo a draw at least, so that's something. But I'm not sure if you need acceleration at this point, unless they've got a backer that they really want to set. But that's a risk of clogging your zones. I feel like Yata's just good for potential chaining if you've got, like, I don't know if they're playing like the version of this deck that does like accumulate fortune shenanigans, but if that is the version they're playing, it might be good to just save it. But looks like they're you know, in sort of draw go stage of the game, you know. Draw pass, draw pass, draw pass. Always fun when it reaches that point. Winged Rhino's coming down. That'll be fine. Jar of Greed coming down. Drawing a card. They're going to use Winged Rhino's effect to chain to that, so it seems like they are setting up. That's not Chain Link 4, that's Chain Link 3. That's not Chain Link 4, that's Chain Link 3. Well, that would be Chain Link 4 if the Accumulated Fortune was Chain Link 3. No, this doesn't. No. That's 3 right there. That is 3 right there. That ain't it. Yeah, that was I mean, that was a miscalculation, but I mean, it's not the worst because now you still have the Accumulated Fortune and the Miraculous Rebirth. It's just kind of rough because you revealed information to Jim Bob, so that's a bit unfortunate. But yeah, that's going to be a bit of a rough thing to happen. Back to Jim Bob. I don't think this game will go to deck out, but yeah, there's a Sirocco. Interesting inclusion, but I guess that might be for Blackwing decks. Bottomless coming down. Is that going to be met with something? Icarus would be pretty good here if they've got Icarus. I don't know if they've got Icarus or not, but would be pretty good. Book works as well. So that will set down the Sirocco. Zerworldo, Dark Arm God thinking here. Did they set up the Accumulated Fortune chain? That's the question. Okay, looks like they are going to chain to Book. They're going to chain a Legacy to Book. And it looks like now the Accumulated Fortune's coming down. they'll get them 2 draws, and they are going to use the Rebirth as well to bring back something. They're going to bring back their Winged Rhinos here. And then draw 2 cards. Draw 3 cards, actually, because Legacy. Yep, there it goes. And now there's only 1 card in their back row. Fisher on the Winged Rhinos will likely clear it. It did indeed clear it. And is Jim Bob going to replace that other back row that they have there, or are they just going to leave it at that? They might just leave it at that, honestly. Looks like they are going to set 1 more. Pass back. Is it time for a heavy? That'd be very funny, but looks like it is not. They're just going to set 1, 2, 3. Are they going to set a 4th? Maybe. No, they're just going to summon out Winged Rhinos. Generally, I'm in favor of setting after you go for the Rhinos, or after you go for whatever play you got, because you don't lose anything by doing it near the end of the turn versus earlier. And this just reveals to your opponent how much you're potentially willing to set. So, yeah. Call on coming down, so that will be bringing back the Sirocco, if that does indeed go through, and it looks like it will. So, yeah, that's going to be a bit rough for Zerworldo here, potentially. It's going to attack into the Rhinos. That's going to get met with a Dim Priz. And it looks like the... Well, technically, hold up. Technically, Jim Bob has priority to chain to something. So, yeah. But it wouldn't matter here because the thing that was chained was a Compulsed, which still is valid for Winged Rhinos here to bounce back. But it could come up if it's like, oh, I'm going to book down my Sirocco. Then the Winged Rhinos can't bounce back because you need to chain it to a normal trap. And if your opponent has activated a quick play spell, then unless you get another normal trap to use, and then, they don't have another quick play spell to respond to it, then you could, be in a bit of a tough spot. But anywho, Zoma the Spirit coming down in the main phase is not necessarily the way you want to do it. You generally want to do it in end phase of the previous turn because this thing summons in defense position. So it's like you want to do it in the end phase of the previous turn because then you can switch it to attack here, right? So like that's generally what you want to do, but it looks like it won't matter anyways because Oppression's going to get activated and that will destroy the Zoma. So yeah, Zoma will be destroyed. Yes, because Oppression says it destroys those cards. Winged Rhinos coming down here and trying to beat in for 18. Will it connect is the question. Going to attack in, and it looks like it will connect. So Jim Bob only has 1 more use of the Oppression. Not that they'll necessarily need it against this deck, because this deck didn't really special summon that much. They do have the Sirocco in hand that they can bring out now and try and beat over the Rhinos. They can go for a Braincon instead, though, and tribute it that way. So that could work. I feel like, honestly, the move here... Well, it depends on what they've got in hand. They could have other monsters, in which case it's fine. That is not a continuous... That's not a normal trap. That's not a normal trap. No. That's, it's when a trap card. Okay, it doesn't have to be a normal trap. Okay, yeah. So, yeah, it looks like that will bring out the Zoma. No, it's fine. It's fine. I was wrong. It's when a trap card, not a normal trap card. So, the Zoma does count. Yes, so that works out. Yeah, see, like everyone's infallible. I'm infallible as well. Not that I ever claimed to be, or no, I'm fallible. I'm not infallible. I was saying everyone's fallible, but anyway, that's in defense, by the way. It's not an attack because it summons in defense position. Yeah, it's not in attack. It is in defense. But TT will blow up both of them, so it doesn't really matter here. So, yeah, it will go to grave. Jim Bob only had 600 life points, which is a bit awkward for them. But they do have a fair amount of back row there, so that can potentially help them out. But the Rhinos can be a little bit annoying here. It does threaten lethal, and if the only way you've got to deal with it is normal traps, then it will keep bouncing back. Breaker coming down. What will that break? That will get bottomless, so it won't break anything. Gets banished. Get it out of there. And then it looks like it's Zerworldo Darkrim God. You're going to set 1. Are they going to set some more? They're thinking. They're thinking. They're thonking. They're not going to set any. So they've either got Trag or Gores. Yeah, they do have to discard here at the end of the turn. They're going to discard Rebirth and Accumulate Fortune, which makes sense. But yeah, they either got Trag or Gores, which is kind of annoying for Jim Bob here. Not quite as annoying if they've got Doomcal. But looks like Jim Bob just going to set one, set another, and pass back. So not ideal for Jim Bob here. The World of Dark Arm God going to set one and pass back. The Rhino's going to attack in. That's going to get compulsed, but it's going to get compulsed by any trap, so it makes sense to use it on that. And then another set there passing back. Dust Shoot. Ooh, Dust Shoot. Rough. That is going to be rough. That is going to be very rough. Rough. That is brutal. Yep, Jiu-Jitsu Master getting sent back. Setting one passing. Seems like the hand is Oppression, Dimpriz, Fisher, and Sirocco. So, yeah. Jiu-Jitsu Master definitely the right pick there. Winged Rhino's coming down, and Dimpriz going to get used. So it does waste a Dimpriz, but you have to do this to survive. So it makes some sense there. This could potentially go to deck out, which is kind of funny. But, again, it can happen. It's happened almost multiple times in this locals. Kaiku coming down, will that be fine? Looks like it will be fine. And Kaiku attacking in, will that be fine is the question. Let's check that graveyard, see if there's Dimpriz and stuff. Only one Dimpriz has been, oh no, two have been used, so there's only one left. So that might come into play here. It looks like they will indeed take it, and they are going to banish two here from the grave, banishing a Rhinos and a Breaker there. So yeah, the only two monsters in grave. And passing back. So this honestly could go either way at this point. Depending on what Jim Bob's back row is, depending on what Zerodo Dark Arm God's back row is. But there goes the Winged Rhinos. It's going to come down. Just try and crash with the Kaiku. Oh, or not crash, or just go for a skill successor here. That's going to get Dark Bribed, though. So that will shut that off. And the Winged Rhinos will crash with the Kaiku. So skill successor, pretty neat card. You can do this also in following turns, too. So that is a bit worrying for Jim Bob here. Looks like Jim Bob just going to set one and pass back. Okay. We're getting closer to deck out territory. Legacy going to draw another, because it seems like they're trying to dig for something like a Winged Rhinos here to just get in for lethal. But honestly, any monster you draw, if there isn't a backer to deal with it, would get in for lethal. Looks like Zerodo setting two more, passing back, maybe trying to set up for a Miraculous Rebirth. Only two of those have been used. We don't know if they play three, but they could. Okay, it looks like Jim Bob going to set one, and that might be the end of the game, because even a skill successor can get over it. Well, actually, yeah, because if you go Rhino... Oh, well, Compulse will do that too, bouncing back the set. Jar of Greed, drawing one. Setting one. Setting two. Oh, I don't like that at all. Generally, you want to compulse when you have an aggressive push, because now you've, basically nothing has been done, right? Looks like Jiu-Jitsu Master coming down now and attacking in. So this means that Jim Bob must be confident that they have a way to defend themselves, and it seems like they indeed do with the Book of Moon there. That's going to get solemned. Okay, so that will indeed cause the Jiu-Jitsu Master to fall, dropping Zerodo Dark Arm God down to 600 life points there. So the Jiu-Jitsu Master will be banished. And it looks like Zerodo Dark Arm God setting one, passing back. Looks like Jim Bob passing back. MST on one of the unknown back row. That's going to deal with the Mirror Force there. And is there going to be a monster coming down? Winged Rhinos will come down. Does Jim Bob have a way to deal with that? They got Dimpriz. So that will get the Rhinos to bounce back. And it looks like it will indeed do that. But now Jim Bob's in a kind of a rough spot. This is why I think it might have been good just for them to actually just set the Jiu-Jitsu Master instead of going for lethal. But I get why they did it, because they did have the book. It's just like, now they're potentially in a point where they can't defend themselves. So, yeah, and they're just going to admit defeat. So, yeah, I feel like at a time like that, sometimes you just have to set and just be like, okay, I'm setting this thing. I can use book to book down a Rhinos, add another line of defense, and do stuff with that. But let's dive in to Hoy versus Sol, which is still going on somehow. It seems like Hoy is in a really good position now. Yeah, they got Zombie, Goblin Zombie, they got Zombie Master, they got Kaya set up. Seems like Sol has a shell in hand, but they're not really able to do much here. The Soul Release coming in clutch, getting rid of the stuff in the graveyard there. That's going to be pretty brutal. Charge can potentially replenish the grave a little bit and get a good search. Probably searching for a Raikou, I assume. Yeah, what are they going to get? Hey, probably Raikou, right? Like, it's either Raikou or Lila, depending if you want to pop one in the back row. But Raikou can pop a back row or a monster, and it's defensive. I mean, I guess Lila's defensive too. And you get milled with a Lila if you summon it out. But Lila potentially runs into Bottomless, which we already see one of in Hoy's Grave. So I don't necessarily think that Lila is necessarily the answer. I feel like Raikou is probably the choice. Other option, yeah, Raikou is going to be the choice. Other option would be like if they had a Jane, they could potentially attack over Zombie Master. But I think either way, you just go for Raikou. It's the safest option here. If Hoy has an out to it, they've gotten out to it. But like, it's more likely that they've gotten out to your other stuff than the Raikou. So yeah, Hoy checking their extra deck. That's never good for Sol here, and that means that they might have some things they can do here, which could be a bit bad. Bryo would be basically lethal. Okay, looks like they're going to go for a Foolish, sending probably Plague. Yep, there's the Plague, and then you can go Zombie Master, pitch for Plague, or just Plague stack, that works too. And then you could Zombie Master pitch for something else. But yeah, that's the risk in doing the Plague effect. But now I guess you can do... Oh, there are no zombies in Grave, so you can't do Zombie Master pitch now. But yeah, I generally go like Zombie Master pitch before I do Plague effect, but it wouldn't really matter here depending on what they stacked. Maybe they had a very good set of cards in hand and they felt fine doing this, but yeah. Okay, Goblin Zombie gonna attack in for 11. I don't know what the sets are, but I feel like I would do... I guess this makes sense, yeah, because either way, this is setting up a 2-turn clock. Because Goblin Zombie is not getting popped no matter what. So if you attack him with Zombie Master in the set or Kai's in the set, they just pop the other one. So like, yeah, this makes sense. Instead of getting in for only 1100, you get in for a fair bit. So what is the target going to be? Has to be one of the monsters unless you got Gores. Okay, looks like it's back row. So this to me says that they probably have Gores or Traga, yes. So the question is, does Hoy play into that? Looks like they won't have to play into it because they just attack into 2 tokens. So pretty good mill there for Sol. And they are going to attack into those 2 tokens. Now with the knowledge that Sol likely has a Trag or a Gores. So let's see what happens here. Okay, Debris coming down. Debris could go for a 3 for the Dandy. Looks like that will go through, and that will go into a Black Rose. So that's going to be pretty good for Sol. Now, I will say Hoy does get the search off Goblin Zombie if this does go through, but that's going to get solemn, so it won't go through. So ultimately, it works out pretty well for Hoy here, I think. I think that is worthwhile play. Although you could argue that, getting the Star Goblin Zombie is pretty good. And then you save the Solemn for, like, if they go Drill Warrior here. Because they very much could go Drill Warrior. Looks like they're going to Avarice, though. So they're going to add back 5 and then draw 2. Or actually, you can't save the Solemn for Drill Warrior because it's going to get popped by the Black Red. Never mind. That was a dumb sort of thing on my part. So yeah, you definitely use the Solemn there. Yeah, I don't know. For some reason, I've had a head empty couple of days, happened in one of my games in the recent Cat Plant video that I did, where I just, like, completely threw one of the games just based on a dumb play. That I knew in the moment, too. I was like, okay, I'm planning it out so that way I can have this set up at the end of the turn and get some value off that. And I just completely threw that out the window mid-combo. So, but, we all have our head empty moments. So you got to be forgiving of yourself when you have a brain fart. Send him back, double debris, lone fire, and I missed the 5th. But if they had quick draw in there, probably quick draw. Yeah, they're just going to pass back. So Hoy in a pretty good spot here. Again, the Gores or Trag in hand is kind of annoying. So you have to decide on, like, what you do with that. But I feel like this is still a pretty good spot to be in. But they are 2350, so that does make things a little bit more complicated. If they want to buy their time a little bit more, they can attack into the 2 tokens and then just leave it at that, setting another card and doing stuff with that. But Soul did pack back a fair amount of starters that, like, are a bit annoying to have around. So I don't know. What do you do here? Looks like Goblin Zombie switching to defense and then attacking in to the tokens. So leaving it at that. And then main 2 just passing. Okay. So saying if you make Black Rose, you make Black Rose. If you make Titanial, you make Titanial, These are all fine. Seems like Hoy not having the gas here, which is kind of unfortunate because zombies want to have the gas if they can. But Lone Fire coming down, so that will go for a Titanial most likely. Yep, Lone Fire into Titanial. Which makes sense because there aren't really many good plant targets left in the deck. So if you just go for Titanial, if that's your last target, then, like, the other Lone Fire deck is dead. So you want to get it out of there. And this does deck thin for you. So Titanial attacking in here. What will they attack into? I feel like potentially the Zombie Master is the move over the Caius. But it looks like they're going to go for the Caius. And that will indeed go through. So Hoy will take 400 from that. And now Foolish here will send something else. What are they going to send? Setting a Necro. Okay, so Necro insulates them a little bit more. Soul setting 1 and passing back. Dust Shoot here, getting a peek of the hand. Sending something back. So that is brutal for Hoy here. Brutal stuff. You never really want to get into this situation. Gonna send back the Gores. Oh, Gores, Caius, Dad, and Goblin Zombie. Only one Dark Engrave, so Dad isn't as scary. But you get to 3 Darks Engrave if Caius comes down, so that's tricky. So yeah, Caius probably the move, but you also get to 3 Darks Engrave if you just summon out Gores, so that is also tricky. Yeah, that is an interesting sort of line of events. And you could just set Goblin Zombie and leave it at that, which might be the move. But it would be funny if Dad comes down. Doesn't really do anything here, but, like, it would be funny for sure. Yeah, if you have the read that your opponent has Gores in hand, then that's kind of rough to go for the tribute for Gores and then do stuff with that. So yeah, it looks like they're just going to switch that to defense. I would set the Goblin Zombie here. I don't know why they're holding it. I feel like setting Goblin Zombie would be really good here because there's one more line of defense. If they get 3 darks, or if they get 3 monsters to do stuff with, then you're kind of in a bad spot. But see, here it's like, yeah, now it's like you're just dead, So it's like if you have the second Goblin Zombie, you at least have defense, right? So I don't know why they didn't set the Goblin Zombie. To me, that did not make sense. Yeah, I feel like that was kind of a rough one. I mean, we don't know the rest of their hand. Maybe they had a way to deal with it. But, like, I don't think they've got a good way to get a third monster on field unless they go like Debris, bring back, a monster, beat over Goblin Zombie with a weak monster. Or that doesn't even do it because Debris can't get over a Goblin Zombie defense. So, yeah, so I feel like setting the Goblin Zombie is the best thing to do there. I mean, that being said, Soul did have probably Gores or Dragon Hand, which makes it kind of tough to actually, get there in the end. But, like, I don't know. I feel like that was... You still want to do what you can potentially to potentially win the game at the end. And I feel like that was not it. But, I mean, that's tricky. That was a rough one for sure. Yeah. Yeah, it's just rough. Anywho, going into game 3 of this one. Seemed like Jim Bob won the second one. That being said, like, Winged Rhinos, I feel like is somewhat doable to side against if you've got things in your side to stop it. But I'll have to see if Jim Bob's able to win the game 3. This will probably be a bit of a grindy one. Jim Bob drawing for turn. Typing in chat, so maybe checking to see if there's Dust Shoot. Oh, they say, tell the stream I'm sorry. Oh, no. Okay. Oh, it can't be fun to watch. It's fine. It's fine. I like grindy games. But, yeah, it'll be fun to watch. Heavy on the back row. It's going to hit 3 good ones. Ryo coming down. 1900 in. Poking in. And passing back. Setting 1, passing back. Let's see what Zeroldo does. Set 1, pass back. Dude, this classic Yu-Gi-Oh gameplay. I feel like if you're watching retro Yu-Gi-Oh, you yearn for a day like this one where you get to, watch a bunch of grindy Yu-Gi-Oh gameplay, or maybe if you're in this era, maybe not. But, like, I feel like the grind can have some use. Breaker coming down, that's going to be fine. Popping that back row or attempting to, and it's a Dim Fizz, or Dim Priz, that is, not Dim Fizz. Very, very different cards. Breaker tagging in for 16, passing back to Jim Bob there. Doomcal coming down. Doomcal trying to attack over the Breaker. Will that connect? We'll have to see. Looks like that's going to connect, so that will deal with the Breaker. And Doomcal is kind of annoying for Rhinos to deal with because, Rhinos tries to use effect, get stopped by Doomcal, and that's going to be rough. So Dark Armed God setting another, and summon out a Sidra. Again, I'm not the biggest fan of just, setting your hand and then going for this sort of stuff because, especially in this scenario, where, you potentially have a normal summon after the Sidra. So, like, if Jim Bob has a way to deal with the Sidra, they're like, oh, do I do this now? Do I deal with this after? And then potentially you're in a tough spot. Like, if they had TT there, and TT was their only way to stop Sidra. If Zeroldo Dark and God special summon Sidra before committing their hand, then it's like, oh, do I use TT here or not? Maybe they use TT. Maybe they don't, though, because they think you're going to summon out another monster. And so I think that was a major mistake on Zeroldo Dark and God's part, but it didn't really matter in this specific scenario because Mirror Force in the macro. It's just, like, good to know in general, right? Good to think about in general. You want to reveal as little information as possible until you have to reveal it. And so it's just good to keep in mind. It's a general principle of the game that you can carry with you through whatever format you play. You won't always be able to keep all that information hidden, right? And that's also part of what your opponent's trying to do is they're trying to get you to reveal that information so that way they know what they have to worry about. But I do think it is probably worth it to try and hold to that ethos as much as possible. Heavy Storm coming down, and that's going to eat 2 of the back row for Zeroldo Dark and God, but it's going to eat 3 of Jim Bob's back row. So that is something. Something out of Breaker as well. Breaker into the set, hitting a set Doomcal. Which I believe was because of a... Oh, that just might have been a next level sort of play. Mind game. Or no, that was the one Doomcal, so had to get set down by something. They didn't have a book, so, like, what set it down? Book... There's no book on this side, so why was that... What set that down? I guess I was, like, looking away or something at that point. Or maybe, no, I don't know. I don't know what set it down. I thought there was a book in rotation, but I guess not. But anyways, we're going to go into the finals now. So we got Jim Bob versus Soul for all the marbles here. So we got, well, Oh, wait, no, we got Wagmum versus Soul. I forgot that Soul versus Hoy was like the first round. Okay, hopefully this goes a bit quicker than the first game did. Oh, my word. Soul's a full board of monsters there, courtesy of the Dandy and the Debris. I guess their plan is maybe to deck out Wagamuffin, but Lightsworn does have a lot of different opportunities to break apart boards very quickly. So Aaron will deal with the AFD, and then Lila will attack into one of the tokens. And then go into the end phase milling. That's going to be 6 mills, which is going to be pretty good for Lightsworn. So here we go. That's 3 off Aaron, 3 off Lila. What will they mill? Wolf is going to be a pretty good one. Wolf coming out in field. Also a dark and a light engrave for a chaos play if Wagmuffin so wishes to do that, if they have the option to at least. And yeah, it's going to pass back to Soul. Pretty formidable board. So both players have 3 monsters on field. Soul could potentially go for a Drill Warrior play now if they got the materials for it. Or they could tribute something because the Danny tokens are tributable now. And it looks like they are going to tribute out something. Contributing out a Titanial Princess of Camellias. It's going to be pretty good with 1 Dandy token there to stop a targeting effect. And will it be enough? It looks like they're going to set 1 and pass back. So they're not going to try and bait out an Honest by attacking in. How do I feel about that? I don't necessarily... Well, if they got a Battle Trap, it makes sense. If they don't have a Battle Trap, then it's like... Yeah, you're just waiting to give them an Honest to draw, right? So it's like kind of awkward. But we'll have to see what happens here. So Soul Recharge coming through, pitching a Lightsworn, drawing 2, milling 2. Milling a JD, so Soul's probably happy to see that JD gone in Grave, but Beckoning is a card as well, so you have to be wary of that. Let's see what will happen now. What's Wagga gonna do? What's the Muffin Man gonna do? Actually, I don't know if they're a man or not, but what's the Muffin Mate gonna do? Yeah, only 2 Lightsworn names in Grave so far. They're going to go for Lila effect, targeting the back row. Is the Titanial going to chain to that? It is not, because it's a Dust Shoot that can chain to it itself. So Dust Shoot going to get a peek at the hand, seeing what's there. Very, very disciplined hold on Soul's part. I think that was a very good play there. Although, you know, maybe the Dust Shoot could have disrupted the Soul Recharge, but I mean, I think it was still a good play overall. So, yeah, getting a peek at that hand. Probably sending back Honest, honestly. I would send back Honest at least. Although there is a world in which, you know, it's tough. It is tough. I feel like Honest is the play to send back, but it's tough because they can still clear the Titanial either way here. Probably. Titanial, or, Celestia says, target up to. Yeah, so you can still pop the Titanial. So what happens here is Wagmuffin hits into the token, tributes maybe the wolf even, and targets the Titanial. Titanial tributes itself to stop the Celestia, but you still, you know, have baited out it, right? And then you have the mills there at the end. So yeah, it's kind of rough. You could also tribute over the Lila too if you want to potentially have less mills, because it might be worth doing. But yeah, they're going to attack over the token. And then main 2. Tribute out for Celestia, probably. Yep, there we go. Celestia coming down. Celestia trying to pop the Titanial. Titanial negating that. And, yeah, that is a cost. So that will indeed go through. Milling a Wolf. So that's going to be pretty good, too. Wolf will be able to come back and represent a lot of pressure on the following turn. That's going to be 5,800 damage worth of pressure. And then going into the end phase here, the Aaron will be able to mill as well. And there's a Beckoning Light set back there. So they will be able to add an Honest to JD, whatever they really want. So it's not looking too hot for Soul here. Yeah, no Dust Shoot here for Wagamuffin. I mean, see as it happens, right? I also think that your deck is kind of ill-suited to face Jim Bob's type of deck because, you know, any of their monsters can get over Rhinos. Dubcal can stop Rhinos from bouncing. So it's just kind of rough, I think. But, I mean, you live and learn from how you play. But, yeah, it's just kind of a tough matchup there for sure. Especially post-siding, right? Yeah, I think Jabab could have won game 1 against you in that match if they just set the Jiu-Jitsu Master and just sat on that. So I think that, like, honestly, either way, you're kind of cooked that match. But anywho, here, Soul thinking they're going to go for a normal summon Sangan. Can be fine by Wagamuffin, because why wouldn't it be? And a pass. Okay, so Sangan cannot search out track. That is a good point to note because it has question mark attack and defense, which, Sangan can search out things with question mark attack. So if it had 0 attack and it said gain however much, based on the card in your hand, then it could search it out. But unfortunately, that's not how the card works. So, I don't know. This is a very interesting player. So Wagner's probably thinking, like, why would they do this? Why would they summon Sangan and attack when I've got all this aggressive pressure? Like, what are they searching here? Do I even care? And it looks like they're going to go for a beckoning here, pitching a Jane. What else are they pitching? Oh, no, they're not pitching the Jane? Or they're adding back the Jane. They're pitching everything at once. That's fine. So that is 3 cards that they get to add back. Going for the Honest makes sense. Honest makes sense. And JD makes sense. So this should be lethal. Through most things I can think of, it's lethal. I guess you normal summon the Sangan because you don't want to get bounced back by Aaron, but you also sort of just tip your hat and be like, yeah, I got nothing, right? So, yeah, I mean, let's see. It's not lethal with... Oh, actually, it is lethal. Yeah, Honest makes it lethal here. So, actually, that's a reason not to have the Sangan attack. Because Honest now makes this lethal. Whereas before it did not. Because you summon out JD. I guess you, instead of searching out an Honest, you could search out something else to get that lethal push. So, either way here, Wagner kind of cooks Soul this turn no matter what. So, it doesn't really matter. But, yeah, rough stuff. Yeah, just go into battle. Like, why not? I don't need to summon out an Honest. Going for JD into that, but yeah, that's going to do it. That was not... Well, you'd have to Honest over the Sangan there to win that turn. But, I mean, realistically, Wagmuffin wins that anyways. So, yeah, rough stuff for Soul in game 1, but let's see whether Wagamuffin will be able to keep that going in game 2 when Soul potentially brings in things from the side, like Light and Prison Mirrors or things like that. That could be good. Of course, Wagamuffin can also bring in things from the side, so that will be a bit tricky to maneuver. How are people feeling about Lightsworn format so far from the games we've seen? I think it looks fun. I'm excited to dive into it. I mean, it's basically like Edison. It's just a different version of Edison. So Edison's fun, so I'm excited to see what Lightsworn's like and see what happens in it. I'm really excited to do, maybe it's just because I made a plant deck in the last one. I'm excited to try out plants in this format, and they'll be fun. Clemens made the deck look pretty good. Even though at the end they did lose Jimbo, I think that was winnable for Clemens. I think that they would potentially won that in other circumstances, depending on what the back row was. But yeah, it makes me excited to try it out. I think it's a fun deck. I think there are a lot of fun decks in this format, just like there are a lot of fun decks in Edison, and I'm excited to show them off. So, yeah, should be fun. It's always fun to see formats that basically are funhouse mirrors of other formats. So, yeah, I like diving in them, seeing the sort of minutia that make the different formats different, But anyways, we're going to be diving in to this game here. Soul going first, drawing for turn. Facing off against Wagamuffin on the namesake deck of the format. Soul on quick draw. Charge coming down, milling some, searching some. 1, 2, 3. Adding a level 4 lower from deck to hand. Just gotta hope that Raiko's not the only one. Yeah, searching out that Raiko there. So not the only one. And Raiko going to probably be set here, I assume. Yep, set 1. Are they going to set some more back row too? Or is that it? Setting 1. Passing back, okay. Classic T set and pass. Gotta love it. What is Waiga going to do here? Solar Recharge here, so that's going to pitch 1, draw 2, mill 2. Pretty good start to any Lightsworn combo. No Wolf in hand in the opener, though, so that's kind of interesting. Yeah, and then milling 2. What did they mill? They milled a Foolish and a Roar. That's not the best mills, but it happens sometimes. But hello, Lad Russo. Welcome to the stream. Great name, by the way. You know, I love Bakano. Great show. So, yeah, love the name. But yeah, we got some exciting Yu-Gi-Oh! Here. We got Lightsworn versus Quick Draw in Lightsworn format, which is slightly different from Edison, but still pretty good. Lila going for the Phoenix Wing, but that's going to pitch a shell. Get that engraved, get the shell in rotation there. And it's going to be pretty good for Soul overall. Muffin won't get the mills in the end phase of this turn. They don't have really much good graveyard setup here. They could commit into the Raikou, but that's kind of awkward. Looks like they're going to commit into it anyways. We'll have to see if Soul plays into that or not. Could be another T-Roar there. That is an option. Could also be a Trap Dust Shoot. So that's also something to worry about. So Soul might want to sort of get cards out of their hand first before trying to pop it with the Raikou. What is Soul going to do? It's definitely a tricky spot to be in. Because you know that Muffin knows about the Raikou. So, yeah, I know. I feel like people don't watch it anymore. That is true. I feel like it is definitely underrated. I feel like more people watch Durarara, which I enjoyed for a time, but I feel like it was not as fun as Bakano for me. I just love the setting. I love, like, you know, 20s gangsters and Prohibition era. Like, it's just so fun. And also, I feel like the narrative choices that they made with, like, basically in non-linear fashion storytelling, I feel like that also made it really fun. So, yeah, more people need to watch Bakano. I feel like it is slept on. And so if you've never heard of the show, go watch it. See if you like it or not. And also, I think one of those shows, too, that, like, I know that people, you know, sometimes are like, oh, I can't watch a dub of a show. I got to watch the sub, and, you know, I got to be a purist about that. I feel like the show is very good dubbed because it's like, you know, it's gangster accents. It, like, for the 20s, like, it's fun. It's, if you like that style of slang, it's a very fun time. So yeah, I don't know. I think it's a good time. So Shell is definitely going to be a target here. Yeah, so it looks like Shell and Roar are going to be the 2 targets. I don't know. I mean, Roar could clog things up, but I guess you're never upset about drawing Roar because it just, you know, buys you a turn anyways. So, but yeah, Transfiguration Prophecy, very interesting card. It did come on clutch here as sort of Raikou bait. But yeah, milling 3 as well. Milling a Quick Draw, a Necro, and a Call. So I think they're trying to play around the Dust Shoot, sending back the shell. But I mean, I don't necessarily know it's like, if it's worth it or not. But I don't know. Oh, I didn't realize it was free to watch on YouTube. That makes it even better. Yeah. So I thought it was on like Crunchyroll or something. But yeah, I watched it back before Crunchyroll was really as big of a presence as it is now. So, but there's Charge, probably going for another Raikou, I assume. Or Lila. They might have Lila in the deck as well. So things have been pretty good. But no worries if you haven't kept up with the channel in a while. I also have not been posting a lot recently because I've been doing a master's program. And so having a master's program and a full-time job and managing the channel has been like a lot. So I haven't really had as much time to focus on the channel. But we're in the 5Ds era, and it's been pretty fun. I'm going to try and make a little bit more videos for Lightsworn format than I have in the past because it's like a cool sort of, you know, time period in the game. And I think it could be fun for people to explore as sort of like a funhouse mirror of Edison. So that's kind of neat. But yeah, exactly. Free to watch. Yar. Yeah. Back in the old days of the internet. The old heads know about that. But yeah, Kaiku attacking in to the Lila there. And that's going to banish the Necro. So I'm surprised. Oh yeah, because Necro can't banish to stop that. So yeah. Banishing Necro, probably banishing, oh, maybe Raikou or maybe Quick Draw. Actually, Lone Fire probably. Yeah, there goes the Quick Draw. That makes sense too. But yeah, hopefully we'll be able to get things, you know, back up and running soon. Because I do feel like it's fun when you can actually have a bunch of videos coming out, because then that builds interest more as opposed to like one video a week. And it's like, you know, people aren't really going to get invested in, for instance, cat format, right? If I do like one video every week or so, because and they want the more constant streaming content about it to get them invested. So not that people would get invested in cat format anyways, because cat format is kind of very aggressive with like Dark Strike Fighter and stuff. So yeah. Oh my goodness, the part 3 of 14 of a given episode on YouTube, and then like it's so good. I mean, it's just it was awful at the time, but thinking back on it now, it's just like, oh man, that was such a more innocent time of the internet, right? I wonder if people still do that. If it probably gets copyright struck into oblivion, but like, man, that was just a classic time of the internet. Yeah. And then the worst was like if you're watching through all the parts and then you're like you can't find like part 6 of 10 or something. You're like, I need part 6. When's part 6? Where is it? And it's just like oh, so good. Yeah. And nostalgic for that. I mean, I'm a very nostalgic guy, as you can probably guess from having a Yu-Gi-Oh! TCG YouTube channel where I go through the game's history, but it's always fun to relive those moments. But yeah, I'm doing pretty well, so thank you for asking. I hope you're doing well as well. Yeah, I mean, I hope everyone watching the stream is doing well. It's the world seems to be getting darker and darker, so if we can be good and do good in that, then that's good. So yeah, but sorry if that got a bit heavy. But I mean, the heavy titanium came down, 2,800 attack, 2,600 defense. That's a big chonker. So yeah, it's a bit tough for Wagmuffin to deal with here. Shuts off things like Raikou very nicely, especially with these 2 tokens there. 1 token's going to vanish for a Caius here, which could be a bit awkward for Wagmuffin. That's going to banish, a Plague. So 1,000 damage on top of it. Yeah, that's going to be a lot of damage coming through. If it does all connect, that is lethal. But, oh yeah, that's true. Like, I know that One Piece has a version as well, One Piece, right? And I think there was like, yeah, I've heard of the Dragon Ball one. I think there's also like a Naruto one potentially. I think they do it for a variety of series, but I think is interesting for sure. I personally am like a person, if I like watch a show, I want to see like everything in it, even though it can definitely drag. That's why I actually haven't watched One Piece. I just read One Piece because the anime just has so much filler like built into the episodes and the pacing that's kind of awkward compared to like Naruto filler where like, if you're watching an episode about how the clones are going on strike, right? If you really want to skip that filler, you can. You don't have to. I would not because of just the way I engage with media. But like, if you want to, you can. Although I read Naruto as well, so maybe I'm not putting my money where my mouth is. But yeah, I like reading manga in general over watching anime, and a lot of it's just down to being able to control how much time you're spending on it. Because like back in the old days, I'd watch hours and hours of anime, right? And when you watch a show, you know how long exactly you're locked into that for, right? Like if a show has 40 20-minute episodes, right? You're locked in for 800 hours, or not 800 hours. You're locked in for 800 minutes. And no matter how much you try and get around that, you're locked into that unless you watch on like 2 times speed or something. Whereas with manga, like the speed at which you read a chapter is going to vary, right? So like you're not necessarily locked into a set time commitment, even though it will take some probably minimum amount of time to actually complete. So it's not quite 100% like, you're saving all its time. But for me, I'm a faster reader than watcher. So yeah, I get through a lot more things more quickly. So yeah, I mean, it's all about when it gets taken down. So yeah, and the rewatch also is very important. Yeah, that's a very good point that you bring up because like, no monsters in hand for the quick draw, I guess. Yeah, that must be it, I think. So that's good hand knowledge. Or maybe Soul didn't want to, get rid of a monster from hand. Maybe they don't have a titanium, but yeah, they might be out of plant targets in deck. That might be it. But yeah, I think you're definitely right. Where like if you're watching on rewatch, it's a bit of a different experience because like I know I've done this on rewatches where I'm watching through and I'm like, I really don't want to watch the next episode. The next episode's kind of a drag, so I'm just gonna skip it and go into the part that I actually want to see, right? So yeah, rewatching completely different. That's very true. And yeah, they are very useful for that. So you're getting all the good stuff without all the stuff that you had to sit through when you watched it the first time. But yeah, I mean, I don't blame people for watching it like that the first time too. Like, don't get me wrong. I personally wouldn't do it, but like, I don't blame people if they do it, you know? But yeah, why am I just leaving that set there? So it seems like that probably is a right go. And they might be playing around like a Gorge or Trag or something like that as well. Oh, it can't be Gorge. So they're maybe playing around Trag, but I feel like you don't need to play around Trag when it's like this. I don't know. It's a bit tricky. Soul could also add back Gorge now. So that's, you know, kind of a rough spot as well. But yeah, we'll see what happens here. I mean, Wagmuffin could also have Trag, which is also something to consider. So if Soul attacks in with the Drill Warrior, that could be a bit awkward. But yeah. Yeah, I feel like people watching anime nowadays, they don't realize how much of a struggle it was to actually find back in the old days. You know, now we got Crunchyroll, we got convenience, you know. But yeah. Oh yeah. All the episodes of filler were just so brutal. Like floating, screaming, and yapping. Oh, that's why I didn't watch Dragon Ball as a kid, because there's just so much of that. And it's like I couldn't handle it as a kid. I want to read the manga at some point. It's on my list of things to read. Right now, what I'm doing for manga is I'm getting caught up with all the current Shonen Jump series going on right now, because I want to know like what's going to be the next big thing coming out. And it's fun seeing the series that maybe are too niche to actually pop up as an anime, right? So yeah, it looks like they're going to attack directly with the drill. I mean, that's the only reason why you're doing that. So I'm pretty sure Waggy Muffin can read that in that. But yep, Trag does come down. That's going to be a big Trag there. So yeah, it's going to be a bit rough. But Soul potentially has ways around that. Debris coming down, going to target probably the Dandy. Yep, it's going to target the Dandy there. And that's going to get crowed. Oh, no. So yeah, it's going to be rough for Soul here. Banishing that Dandy. And, I mean, the Drill Warrior can still banish itself and get things back. But, like, things have gotten a lot worse for Soul here. So, that Trag is going to be at 3,000. And the set here might be a Raikou. Flip up, pop, Debris. That is an option here. Getting for a ton of damage. If Soul has a Trag, it's not really worthwhile. So, for them to bring it out. So, it's not really the best thing in the world for them. Charge going through, milling a wolf. It's going from bad to worse for Soul here, if I'm being honest. Yeah, and then getting a Lightsworn search as well. Oof, that is rough. Could go for Lumina even. They could also surge out a 4 to then pitch with Trag and take control of Debris. Like if they wanted to do that, they could flip up the Raikou, just mill, and then go into like an Iron Chain if they've got it. But yeah, I feel like the difference between Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z is like very pronounced, right? Where like for what I've seen, it seems like the original Dragon Ball was a bit more like lighthearted and fun. And not to say that Z isn't fun, I mean, Z is fun in its own way, but Z started to get like more serious, right? Like from what I've seen. So that's the impression I get at least. Yeah, they're checking the opponent's graveyard to potentially see if there's anything good to add back off Drill. Seems like there aren't really too many good things to add back off Drill here now that the Dandy's gone. So, and Debris can go into something, right? Debris can go into a 7 here. So that is Black Rose material. So that is something to worry about. Arc is going to come down as well. Dropping the Trag down a little bit, but and there is another Debris engrave in case you do take the Trag. So it's like, that's kind of rough. I'm curious what's going to happen here. Okay, looks like Trag's going to attack in to the Debris. So that's going to get in for 1,400. There goes 14, then 12, then 21. Yep, dropping Soul down to 2,400. So that's a bit worrying for them. Let's see, does Wagmuffin have a way to stop a Black Rose play? It seems like they don't right now. But I also don't think they're at risk of dying here. So they're going to mill a Trooper and a Judgment Dragon. Probably not the best mills that you'd want, but it is something. Drill here, probably bring back Debris. I assume, because you can go into Lone Fire into Black Rose is probably your only way out of it. There could be another Crow, though, coming down for that, but, I mean, you can only do so much, right? Yeah, I mean, maybe you add back Caius. Caius is another option. You go Caius, banish Trag, and then attack one of the other monsters, but then, like, Honest is a possibility, so, like, I don't know, you're kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't. Like, you just kind of got to choose what you're playing around. And I feel like what you want to play around is the Honest rather than the DD Crow. But you could also read that, like, Wagmuffin is doing this because they've got the Crow. So, like, then that's also awkward. But they could just Crow on whatever Drill Warrior would add. So, like, that's another thing, right? So, if they've got Crow, it doesn't matter for you, right? You're just kind of all out of luck anyways, and they're just trying to get you to waste a normal summon. But if you do target something that is not the debris, they can just Crow that. So, like, you probably want to target debris, get that back, then go for something. Because if they get Crow, it's over for you anyways. That, at least, is my take on it. Yeah, Arcus cannot allow Soul to target the Lila. Can't target Lila or Raikou. So that does cut off some of the options for what Soul can go for. But debris into Lone Fire into Black Rose is still very good. So probably what they're going to do. But yeah, I also have not read Bleach. I haven't read Bleach. I haven't read Dragon Ball. Those are the two big classics that I need to read. I mean, I say classics. I'm sure some people will be like, well, actually, Astro Boy is the real classic that you need to read. Or Fist of the North Star or something. And that's fair. I should read some of the foundational, manga back then. But I don't know. I like reading some of the more modern stuff because I feel like a lot of the older stuff has aged in interesting ways, So it's, I don't know. It definitely, it's worth reading a lot of the time, but yeah. I like One Piece. One Piece is something that takes a while to get into, I think, for a lot of people. Just because, like, I think what I always say for One Piece is, like, I recommend reading until you get to RTA or Arlong Park, but that is still a commitment. That's like 50 chapters. So, like, I recommend reading that much. And from me, as a One Piece fan who's read, like, over 1,000 chapters, I'm like, oh, that's like nothing. But it is a lot for some people. And if you don't like the characters, if you don't like all that stuff, then it can be a bit of a slog. But I think that is when what's special about the series starts to sort of show itself. And yeah. I mean, that's a perfectly valid way to do it, where you're just sort of looking for the old good stuff, which I think is fine, honestly. Like, I have been both approaches at different times in my life, right? But, I'm pretty sure... I thought that Warrior, let's see, special card banished by this effect, and then add one. Oh, that's true. It might not be respondable by the Crow. Yeah, you're right, Luzbel. Very good point. I was not aware of that, so that's my bad. Again, I said earlier in the stream, I am not infallible. I definitely get these things wrong. There are a lot of complicated rulings in the game's history, so yeah, I'm not the ultimate source of truth. So thank you for correcting me on that. So yeah. But either way, I think you go for debris because, like, if they got Crow, you're in a pretty bad spot. And, like, if you go Caius or something, then you only clear one monster and then potentially get over another. But if they got Honest, which is likely, then that's also awkward. So yeah, I think debris is the pick. But that didn't go through, so Black Rose cleared everything. Unfortunately for Soul, they're still taking a lot of damage here. So yeah, the Cardrew will be able to come down, poke in for 19. We know that there's no Gores in hand because Gores is in grave. And, oh, there's JD as well. So that's going to be it. Yeah, that's GG's right there. So, yeah. I mean, so I think, like, I've always had a decent memory. So that's, part of it. But why is Bottomless Judgment and Torrential me? Oh, because that makes sense. Yes, that makes sense, Luke. Yeah. So I think you're definitely right, Luzbel. Yeah. So yeah. I need to get better at those rulings, especially because I want to play Dandy Warrior at some point in Lightsworn format. I think it'll be interesting because there are more milling cards. So that does leave the potential to make the deck slightly better than it is in Edison format. Not sure if it will be quite like tier 1 because it definitely fell off in Edison. And I think for similar reasons, it could fall off in Lightsworn because, Edison just doesn't have the oomph that it really needs. And, I think Lightsworn, you're going to still need that oomph, especially when a lot of the decks are a lot faster with things like Lightsworn, right? Lightsworn's a lot faster than it is in Edison format, I think, here. Despite having similar card pools, just because it has more starters, more things to do with that. So, I think it will be a bit tricky for the deck. But, who knows? We'll have to see what happens there. But, yeah, that too. Royal Oppression, very, very bad for Dandy Warrior. And Oppression is a house in Edison. It will be a house here too. We've already seen, like, Jim Bob's on a full stun deck, right? Playing Oppression. The last Lightsworn format tournament was actually won by a Hero Beat deck that was sort of locking down the other decks. And Oppression, very good against Lightsworn. I mean, of course, they can go Lila and then pop it and stuff. But if you set it up and manage to keep it up, then that is very, very bad for Lightsworn. So, yeah, I think that Dandy Warrior is going to be in a tough spot. But, it's an iconic deck of the time period, so I'll probably show it off. And, we'll see how it goes, but it probably will not go well. Yeah, I'm curious what the meta for Lightsworn format would be. I think it will take a lot from Edison format, no matter what it turns out to be. But it's interesting. Ooh, okay, yeah, that will trade because the effect to draw a card is an activated effect, so that will indeed be negated by Doomcal, and Doomcal will die. So very good play by Wagmuffin there. I mean, not that they anticipated the Doomcal, but they're probably anticipating that Jim Bob would think that was a Ryko and try and pop it in some way. And by having the card trooper, when it gets popped, they get a draw in there. So pretty good. So things starting out pretty well for Wagmuffin. They're just going to go to battle, attack him for 21. Will that go through? Looks like Mirror Force is going to come down. So that will not go through, but it's a 1-for-1 trade. So not the worst thing in the world for Wagmuffin there. Especially when they're up 6-4 cards. Now they might have Ryko coming down as well. Okay, they're going to go for Aaron here. Get some mills going. That also works. And they're going to go to end phase here. So Honest will be able to protect this if they've got Honest. And they are, basically saying, hey, I've got Honest here by leaving this out. But another Wolf will also be coming down. So this is not probably what Jim Bob wants to see, especially because there are a lot of Lightsworn names in grave as well. 1, 2, 3, 4, in fact. So that is enough for a JD play on a following turn if they've got JD. So it's not looking good for Jim Bob. Kaiku, though, will be pretty good if this does connect, because you can banish some of those names out of the graveyard. And it looks like it will connect. So they will take 200. Banish 2 names there. What are the names you banish? Probably not the Wolf, because that's going to get double stacked when the other Wolf goes to grave. And speaking of going to grave, the Fisher will clean up that Wolf as well. And it looks like Jim Bob going to set another pass. So, Kaiku, very good card against Lightsworn if you can manage to actually get it banishing everything. But that's a big if, if it survives long enough to do that. And Wagmuffin still does have 6 cards here. So they're going to bring out a Lila here. And they're going to go for the Lila effect on the back row. Trying to pop that. That's going to be a Compulse bouncing back the Lila. Not probably what Wagmuffin wanted to see. They probably wanted to get that Lila engraved. Well, actually, they got a Lila engraved. So I'm curious what they were going for. They may just getting the mills on. That's also something they could have been doing. But yeah, it's not looking good for Wagmuffin here. Pot of Avarice is going to be pretty good here, though. 5 cards exactly. So they potentially draw into something to get them out of this. They also won't lose any more cards from their graveyard because they can only banish monsters. Yeah, 1, 2. And let's see if Wagmuffin actually has back row to stop this thing. I doubt they're playing Sidra in the main. But yeah, I love Kaiku. I think Kaiku is one of the most interesting and better designed cards in Yu-Gi-Oh's history. Just because it's like, it pops up in multiple formats because it has multiple effects related to banishing and very good effects related to banishing. It's also a good body, and it just is, there's so many different factors to it that manifest in whatever form it pops up in. So I love seeing it as well. I think it's really fun. And yeah, it's always something that you have to consider in these old formats. I think after a certain point in the game's history, it does get to where, Kaiku is not the best anymore, but I think the fact that it lasts so long after its initial release shows how cool the card is, you know. But yeah, Book will allow the Sirocco to get over the Wolf. Charge here, though, that's going to be pretty good. Mill in 3, searching out a Lightsworn here. Potentially searching out a Jane. Jane would be pretty good here, getting over the Sirocco. I feel like Jane's probably the move. I mean, maybe they've got a Jane in hand. They're going to go for Raikou instead, though. Oh, they got a recharge. Okay, so recharge pitch for the Raikou. Draw 2, mill 2. There goes a Jane. No, the Jane. But that is 4 Lightsworn names engraved, so that will be able to bring out a JD if they've got it. That's a big if. That is true. DDV is a problem. It's a problem in Edison format. It will probably be a problem here too. I think a lot of the decks have not adapted to it yet and have not like incorporated it yet, but it definitely will be something that decks try out because in Edison it's very good. Here it probably is very good as well. So yeah, that is something worrying for Quick Draw. Yeah, there isn't really much it can do. Oh, well, JD's gonna be pretty good there. Yep. Honestly, here, they could have gone JD first, blow up the board, and then go for this. Maybe they were playing around DD Crow, but I feel like you DD Crow whatever the Lumina brings back anyways, you know, so I don't know. Or did they have to get the name? No, they had 4 engrave. I don't know. I don't think it matters much here. I think that Wagman was kind of wrap this game up because, you know, look at the Lightsworns they've got. Look at Jim Bob's hand right now. It's 1 card in hand, which is not ideal. They will be getting a second here, but like, I don't know if it's going to be enough. Yeah. But yeah, also Lightsworn can play DDV as well in this version of it if they play a Twilightsworn build. Not sure if they'd want to because Lightsworn generally don't play many traps. It's kind of rough, but yeah, I think Light Imprisoning is definitely a mandatory side card. I would be very surprised Jim Bob did not have Light Imprisoning in their side because like Lightsworn, very, very good deck in this format. So you got to have the LIMs in there. And I assume that they do. Like, especially if you're playing a sort of stun sort of deck like Jim Bob's playing, like you definitely have that there. Especially because it doesn't seem like they're playing many light effect monsters that really matter. They're playing Ryo, but like Ryo isn't hit that hard by Light Imprisoning Mirror. I guess it turns back on the charges, but like, do you care about the charges being turned on if they don't really have anything good to search? Like, I don't know. Like, what are they searching that gets over Ryo? Nothing like on the face of it, right? I mean, I guess you can search out Lumina. Well, no, Lumina doesn't even do it if Light Imprisoning Mirror is up. So, yeah. Yeah, Catastor is indeed great. Yeah, and that is out now. The Hidden Arsenal stuff is out. So you got Catastor, you got Bryo. You got a lot of good synchros around. So, yeah, I'm excited to be playing with Catastor. Catastor is one of my favorite synchros. It's just so neat. It's finally a good 5. You don't have to play Android anymore. Although Android not bad. I don't want to, you know, slather on hate on Android, but like I do like Catastor a lot better. I think it's just much more useful than Android in most situations. But Soul Recharge, Pitchin and Aaron, milling a Lumina and Celestia. So already 3 Lightsworn names engrave. And then there's a Lila. So this Lila will probably just trade with Doomcal, I assume. They're going to go to battle. That will also trade with the Doomcal if they pitch an Honest here. But it looks like a Dimpriz is going to deal with that. Yeah. I feel like that's probably why I probably would have just tried to trade with the Doomcal with the Lila. Because it gets a guaranteed 4th name engrave. So, I don't know. That probably would have been what I would have done. But I don't think it's terrible here because doing this at least tries to, you know, get you the mills. And I guess there's a TT there, so it blows up the board anyways. But yeah, Jim Bob going to set 1 pass. And now let's see what Wagamuffin does here. Oh, is something happening? Oh, may they... Okay, it looks like both players misplayed. I think what happens is the Honest would be negated by the Doomcal, but the Doomcal would die. So I think the Lila would still be there, I think. I could be wrong about that. Again, you know, there are a lot of complicated rulings out there, but I think it still would have worked out well for Wagamuffin. Anyways, Jane attacking in for 18 because it's not attacking a monster. And then that's going to mill 2 at the end of the turn. So pretty good for Wagamuffin here. Unfortunately for them, not getting that 4th name engrave, but Jane would be the 4th name if it actually managed to hit the grave. Caillou coming down, Fissure coming down. So it looks like It will hit the grave, but Kaiku will try and get some things out of there. JD from coming down. So what's he going to ban? Just going to ban a Lumina and a Jane. Makes sense to me. Those are the two most useful to deal with something like Kaiku on the face of it. And now we got to wonder what Wagamuffin's going to do to deal with that Kaiku. Because again, Kaiku, if it's established for long enough, can be very, very good against Lightsworn. Heavy coming down, popping that Mirror Force. Very good hit there. Foolish coming down, sending a Wolf. Did Jim Bob bring in DD Crows into the deck from the side? Or is that Wolf going to come back? Looks like Wolf is going to come back. No Crow from Jim Bob. And that will be able to beat over the Kaiku. Yeah. I think that was a very good play from Wagamuffin. Yes, Heavy was just 1-for-1 there, but like, I think sometimes you got to do what you got to do, and I think they did indeed have to do that. Jim Bob was playing around Heavy pretty much the whole time as well, so, but yeah, there goes the Doomcal into the Raikou, so that will clear both of them, and then another set there, pass. So I think Wagamuffin is favored here. It really depends on if Jim Bob can get into Lightning Prism Mirror with a monster to back it up, but they need to clear that Wolf somehow, so that is the tricky thing. Wolf taking in for 2,100. Wagamuffin setting one, passing back. Also, Wagamuffin has inevitability with a potential JD coming down. Breaker coming down here, trying to pop the set. Will that go through? Will it be a chainable? Looks like it's a chainable. MST hitting the back row, hitting Oppression. Oof, don't want to lose that against Lightsworn. And yeah, Jim Bob just passing back. Fortunately, not much they can do here. Yeah, it's not looking good. Honest coming down because it's more effective here than it would be in hand. You potentially play into Gores this way, but with Oppression setup, they probably don't have Gores. So, yeah, it's looking not too good. I'm setting one, Honest bouncing back to hand, and passing back to Jim Bob. Yeah, and there are ways that Jim Bob can get out of this, but they are getting more and more unlikely. I'm checking the opponent's graveyard. Maybe they got Transmigration Prophecy or something, but I feel like you side that out against a deck like this. Wolf attacking him for 21. Will that connect? It will not because there's a T-Roar there. Okay. That will do its job, saving Jim Bob for one turn, but will it be enough? Setting one. Passing back. Nope, setting two. Could be a legendary Jiu-Jitsu master, could be a snowman eater, could just be a body that like you want to set to play around the Wolf just beating over it, dealing damage. And it looks like that is indeed the case. Setting that Ryo. Oof, that hurts. And you can't even summon it in Bluff Honest because Wagamuffin could just damage step Ryo, the Honest, and then you're in a really bad spot. So Jim Bob setting another, and it's looking over for Jim Bob here. Put 2,100 in, that will connect. Jim Bob at 100 life points here. There aren't too many burn cards in this format that you'd be playing, but it looks like it's over either way there. GG's from both players, and yeah, very good stuff. Seems like the back row were Mirror Force and Threatening Roar, so I don't think Jim Bob was making it out of this one. But yeah, Lightsworn's too strong. I mean, they didn't win the last tournament, but in a small tournament, who knows what can happen, right? Like, there's a lot of variance in small tournaments, so that can definitely hit decks like Lightsworn a bit harder than other decks. I definitely think Lightsworn is definitely the deck to beat in this format. It's named Lightsworn for a reason. We'll have to see how it does next week's locals, though, because we are going to be holding a locals next week as well, because we're going to be having a monthly Lightsworn tournament that I'm going to be creating on the YGO from Zero Discord server after this stream wraps up. So we should have signups open by tonight, and that should be starting next week. So look forward to that. Should be a lot of fun, and I should be having some Lightsworn videos coming out in this coming week to sort of prepare for that. So if this looked fun to you, then definitely head over to the YGO from Zero Discord server. Sign up for that when it is up, and it should be good. But thank you all for stopping by and watching. I hope you enjoyed as always. And until next time, I've been Ben from YGO from Zero. Signing off. Peace.